Medfield. Welcome to Medfield TV, the newest edition of happenings in Medfield. In this case specifically, it'll be the Medfield Town Hall. And Mike Sullivan is here, the town administrator, and he's going to give us an update on the end of this fiscal year, the beginning of a new fiscal year, the movie up at the State Hospital grounds, and a few other things along the way. So let's see what Mike's got to say today.
Hi, Ann, and we finally made it to summer. Finally got some summer-like weather.
Yep,
for
we
change,
do.
So. The only sad part is the days are now getting shorter, but that's okay. It takes a while. Yeah, it's when you live by a fiscal year budget. This is next week is New Year's. So happy New Year.
Okay, get a bottle of champagne
I
out.
guess and the way you're dressed, I should be wishing you a happy 4th of July.
And could that be because 4th of July is only a few days away?
Well, either that or Flag Day was a couple of weeks ago.
That's true too.
Yeah, it's the year end. We made it through another year, and the tax bills went out last week. We're now into about ready to start fiscal 18. My gosh. I remember when all we talked about was Y2K for the turn of the new millennium. So
Yeah.
we're already 18 years into the new millennium, or 17 and a half, I guess, technically. But we're got a bunch of things going on. We did get a letter last week, and we get the hard copy today in the mail, that we have met the qualifications for safe harbor under 40B.
That's great.
Effective May 23rd. So it goes from May 23rd of 2017 to May 23rd of 2018. And if we're able to get another 21 units lined up by that time, then we'll get another year of safe harbor. So a lot of work went in from a lot of people, and we did have a meeting with the developers of the Dale Street project. They asked for a meeting with us. They came back with a proposal for 95 units and 2 separate developments, 25 condos on the cemetery side of 27, okay, and 70 apartments on the town garage side of
Are they restricted by age or income?
You're not allowed to restrict by age unless you get special permission. There 25% of the units have to be restricted by income.
Okay, affordable.
And
okay.
the others can be market rent or market priced in the case of the condos. And they were talking about the condos selling, in the market condos selling in the price range of $750,000 to $850,000. They're very large condos. They had 2 models. One was about 2,500 square feet, and the other was about 2,800 square feet.
And what was the price you said?
$750,000 to $850,000. So,
I thought that's what you said.
and we almost fell off our chairs at that.
Wow, I am.
And then for the apartment units, the market apartment units, they were talking about rental range for a 3-bedroom apartment being in the $2,500 to $3,000 range.
I'm not surprised.
Sounds like Boston prices to me, but
Yeah.
maybe they're worse in Boston now. I have been in there in so long, I don't know the city much anymore. So we told them it was uglier than the first proposal, especially the ones on the town garage side. That was really awful, in my opinion. But
Was this a hearing with the selectmen or with the planning board or with whom?
no, we met with. They're supposed to meet with all the different departments. So there was the police chief, the fire chief, the town planner, the superintendent of schools was there. Town council was there.
Just about everybody.
So yeah, just about everybody, and they gave their presentation, and we told them to go back to the drawing boards and reduce the size and come up with something that was more in character with the town. Now that was just before we had gotten our safe harbor approval, about a week and a half before. We would have been okay because we had filed the decision, the zoning board of appeals decision on the Borelli one a week before, so that would have covered us. So we'll see what comes of that one. We're hoping that we can move forward with a housing production plan and get enough housing units. And by the way, people may wonder, there's what used to be the Victorian Manor or a bike shop or Dr. Sullivan's office, depending on how long
knitting
you've
store,
been in town.
knitting store also?
Is there a knitting store
Yeah.
there too?
Yeah.
Up
Beth-
on
yeah.
North Street.
Dorothy Callan from Main Street ran that knitting store.
Yeah, Bob Borelli, who's a local builder, has a small 40B project there of 8 units, and those are part of the units that gave us safe harbor. It'll be 6 market units and 2 affordable units.
Great.
And he's really doing a nice job. The building is very attractive. At one point, they stripped it down so much, what's left of it. But he is putting back a lot of the detail that was originally on the house, and fortunately painted something besides tan or gray. It seems like lately everything's been tan or gray. The Conservation Commission is going to issue an order of conditions on the Hospital Road project that the Larkham brothers are doing, so
Okay.
that should be getting underway fairly shortly. And we'll see. That's 49 units, 13 affordable, and they're talking in the 650 to 750 price
getting
range for
pricey,
the
aren't we?
market units. Yeah, I don't know how people can afford it, you know, especially families with young children, with all the other costs they have. So, but speaking of the state hospital, last week was the car show up at the hospital. I understand it went very well. They certainly had good weather for it. They had to move the location because of the filming that's starting up there for the movie. So they moved it down to the field, sort of right opposite the Little League fields on Hospital Road. I understand it went pretty well. I heard there were a couple of people that wanted to go in and see what the movie sets were
I would think
like,
so.
and, they're not allowed. They have their own security forces, and somebody said, well, I'm a taxpayer, I own it. They're renting it, and they're paying a very handsome rent. So
What are they paying?
well, I don't know. I would want their permission to discuss that.
Oh,
but
okay.
It's
I thought it was public record.
I don't know, even as public record, I think they're entitled to a little private sector privacy, I
okay.
guess.
Oh.
But it's very much more than we're getting from the car show. It's in the order of 6 figures. But they're going to start serious filming next week, and people will not be allowed on the site. That's so they're wasting their time if they
Yeah.
think they're going to be able to go up. And if they're dog walkers, then there's plenty of other places in town where they can walk their dogs. And
And how long is it going to be closed off to the public?
their tentative schedule right now is to be closed until September 15th.
Oh, 2 months, 2.5 months.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to walk their dog up there, and they'll pay us a 6-figure rental payment.
Or buy it for a dog
Go right to
park.
it.
Be a great place to buy it.
Not if they have to pay the price we paid for it plus renovate it. So that as the filming will be going on, and it should be mostly inside. I think most people won't even know anything's happening there, although I did talk to a couple of the restaurant owners in town, and they are getting some business out of it, you know,
Good.
catering meals or having some of the people from the movie company come down and eat at the restaurant, so.
Are you able
That's
to
always
tell what
good.
movie it is and who the director is and who the stars will be?
I don't know. I guess I'm not into Marvel comic books, but, so it's one of those movies that if you're probably over 18, you wouldn't go see it.
Are you over 18? How about that?
Just slightly, just a few decades.
I'm a little more slightly.
Yes. And we'll put it this way, I'm closer to 118 than I am to 18. So. But I don't know who this, even if they told me I wouldn't know who the stars were. I don't
It's an
watch
X-Men
those
movie, isn't it?
movies. It's an X-Men
That's what somebody
movie,
told
but
me.
they're cranking those out. There's several of them
Okay.
have been coming out in the past few years.
I've never seen one, so
Uh,
maybe you people at home have seen them.
The women of a certain age want to know if Hugh Jackman's going to be up there, because I guess he was in the original.
He is a pretty good-looking man. Now, you probably don't realize that,
No,
but
I
I
guess
happen to think so.
All I think of when I see him is those long fingernails he had when he was in the original movie. I think he had. So that to me wasn't very attractive, but not on a man not that long. But no, he's not doing them anymore.
Okay.
So,
That's too bad.
so they can have movie stars, I guess, for the younger teenage girls who appreciate the young men more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a couple. There we go. There's a couple of young women in it who I've never heard of, but supposedly that were in the Hunger Games or one of those other movies that I'm not
Okay.
familiar with either.
I just thought you might remember.
No, I'd have to know first to remember. So
That's
I don't know. Yes. So a lot of other things going on in town besides that. There was a lot of chip sealing done the past couple of weeks.
Yeah,
As
a
anyone
lot
who
of people
lives on
talking about the
street.
roads.
Yes, yeah. And we have bids being opened this week for paving of Main Street outside the center. We're not going to do the center.
Which direction then? East or west?
We're doing it both directions.
Oh, okay.
No, wait a minute. They are doing the center, and they're going to do up as far as the pond on North Street. They're doing from Brook to, I believe, Millis. That's where they're doing.
That's going to make traffic on Main Street even more interesting than it normally is.
Well, that's why they're trying to get it done over the
Sure.
summer.
Good move.
When they did it before, the particular contractor was very good. He kept the traffic moving, and he was done in about a week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Then they'll also be doing North Street from, I believe it's from Pine, either Pine or Winter up to the Dover town line. The selectmen decided to hold off on the section of North Street between Pine and the pond, and to see if the town, because it looks like they changed the qualifications of the points you get on getting state funding for road construction projects.
Okay.
And we, as usual, when it comes to getting the money, we're at the bottom of the list. When it comes to paying the money, we're right at the top.
I was just thinking of two schools right there in that immediate neighborhood near North and Pine. That could be a bit of a problem.
Well, that's why if you do it over the summer, it's
Yeah,
much
summer
better.
would be much better.
And that will just be, I believe, about 1.5 inches pavement. So they're going to grind it down 1.5 inches and then put an overlay over it. So that should go fairly quickly. And if they get a good price on the bid opening and get the contractor to come in quickly, depending on his schedule or her schedule these days, we're hoping to get it done before school comes back. So we're a lot of roads done. People are still wondering why haven't we repaired the bridge on Phillip Street yet? So, although I think some of the people down there like it because they don't get any traffic by their houses. But It's been submitted to the state for a 25% review. Then they have to do 100% design review. Then we have to put it out to bid. It's a very long process when you take state money, so that's still going to be a while, unfortunately, for what should be a very simple project. So, who said government isn't bureaucratic? At the end of the year, fiscal year, I was working with Jerry McCarty the last couple of days. We're trying to get the money in for the credits on the solar renewable energy credits on the
Absolutely great.
wastewater treatment plant. We're up to, that went in, it started generating electricity around the end of April, beginning of May of 2016.
Okay.
So it's been, I would say roughly 18 months that it's been in operation. And when I checked today, we're up to 252 megawatts that it's generated. So we should be getting somewhere around probably $60,000 a year in SREC credits. Plus, we're saving about 40% on electricity.
That is really
consumption
good.
for the treatment plant. Yeah, that was really a good investment. I haven't seen the figures yet on the public safety building. That will be far less because the area and the number of panels is far less, but they expect that to generate about 19%.
That's great.
So those turned out to be very good projects. And speaking of the public safety building, there was a nice turnout for the
A certain person was retiring.
yes, for the reception that Bill Kingsbury didn't want.
I know.
But graciously attended anyway. And as I said to him, Bill, for somebody that didn't want any kind of a party, when you were leaving, you had a bigger one than most.
But what was
People
nice
liked
about it, it was so casual. You just dropped in, dropped out. A lot of people to talk to. Nothing fancy there.
And
Just Bill was there and he talked to everybody. It was
Right.
a great tribute to a nice man, I think.
And the kids, young and old, could go around and look at the equipment
Sure.
and look at the building, so it worked out fine.
No, he's done a very good job, and I think we're lucky.
Yes, unfortunately, he's going to stay on and work part-time until we get a new fire chief, and
Do you have
they've
a,
started the process for that.
You have a committee?
Yes, and they've met a couple of times. They're going to go through something similar to what we did with the police chief.
And who's on the committee?
Assessment center. You would ask that. I know the police. I know the police chief is on it. I believe the superintendent of schools, Chris,
Okay.
is on it. One of the selectmen. I think it's.
Nobody from the public?
Yeah, there are other public, but you know, there's so many committees that have been appointed.
I know there are.
There's the ambulance,
Yeah.
not EMS, the
ALS.
ALS.
I know what you meant.
And so I have a hard time remembering which committee is which. But that'll be an interesting one, that ALS committee. That's people have all opinions on that as to what the best way to proceed
Sure.
is.
Do they have
It's gonna be-
applications in yet?
For chief?
Mm-hmm.
No, they haven't advertised
Okay.
yet, so they want to get this consultant on board to set up the process. So, you know, it's when you're dealing with a position like a police chief or fire chief, you don't just go out and hire quickly.
I know.
It's a whole process you have to go through, as you remember from the.
I've been
what we
there,
went through
done
on the
that.
Police chief, yes, yeah. So, but it's a lot of stuff going on. Not as much last summer. You recall we were putting the field in down at the high school. And that was a major project. The public safety building was wrapping up. So there was a lot going on last year. It's been busy times. So.
Mm-hmm.
And we just had our actuarial study completed on our funding for retiree health insurance.
Great.
And we thought it would drop more than it did, but it's the way they do these actuarial studies. We are in pretty good shape, although our unfunded liability for retiree health insurance only on paper looks like it dropped from 47.5 million to about 45 million. But our annual required payments dropped to about 600,000, I think it was. So we have now, we will as of July 1st, because when the new fiscal year starts, the town appropriated 400,000 to put into that fund. And within our earnings on the monies we've already set aside, we'll have over $2.6 million, which doesn't sound great as a portion of 45 million, but it's, considering we've only been doing it for about 6 or 7 years, it's really good. Mm-hmm. And once you start, accumulating funds, then the interest earnings start to really mount up.
Sure.
And come along much better. If only I could say the same for our pension liability. I think that's about 18 million, but.
Wow. And you're not there yet.
And I'm not there, no, I'm saving the money. I could have retired 5 or 6 years ago.
That's right, you could have.
Been collecting, so. They were not in as bad shape as the T. I don't know if you've read about the MBTA.
Yes,
their
everybody's
pension
heard about
system. It's awful. Why the public allows things that happen with the MBTA is beyond me. I don't know whether they're so afraid that the subways won't work or the buses won't run, that they allow these incredible things to happen. I mean, that pension system years ago when I was on the Finance Committee Advisory Board was overfunded. One of the few pension systems in the state that was overfunded. According to the papers now, it's somewhere between $1 and $3 billion in the hole. One of the problems is they have more retirees than employees. The other problem is half the retirees are, a lot of them are in their 40s and 50s. They're going to be collecting for
Yeah, that's a subject that comes
20,
up a lot.
30, 40 years.
Should there be a mandatory retirement? Nobody gets paid for retirement until they're 65. And I like that.
Absolutely.
I like it.
And it should be on everything.
I agree.
It should be on all these authorities that are
The schools, the
set
town,
up.
everything.
Yes, it should be police, fire, teachers.
Absolutely.
They all went in and pushed the legislature to give them these perks, and it's going to cost the taxpayers billions and billions
It already
of dollars.
does.
It is, but it's only just begun because, the guys that are retiring now are retiring at much higher salaries, and people are living longer today than they did 30 years ago. So if it's expensive now, it's going to get a lot more expensive, and if the legislature doesn't do something about it, I was just reading today that the state of Illinois may be the first junk state.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
I think they said they have, the governor and legislature have been fighting, and they haven't passed a budget in 2 years. And they owe, I think it was $14.5 billion they have in unpaid bills. And that doesn't even touch their unfunded pension liabilities. So
When we're talking about legislature, I have people that question me. They ask me about the open meeting law the years that I've been on committees. Could we just, if I went out for dinner, say with one of the selectmen while I was on the board, could we talk about anything we're going to vote on? I said, absolutely no. Nothing in the future either, but you have to be really careful. They said, well, how come the Republicans could caucus about things and the Democrats can, and they're all in closed sessions?
because they
It's
exempt
horrible.
They exempt themselves from
It's
all these-
horrible.
It's horrible.
If it happened in Medfield, if the Warren Committee or the Board of Selectmen or anybody else did that, we'd be thrown out.
If anybody asks that question, say, have you called your legislator and objected to it? And you'll find nobody's called them, so they can get away with it.
Wow.
And it was the newspapers that pressed because they were being shut out of legislative just meetings where the decisions were being made. And so what did the legislature do? They passed all these crazy regulations that apply to cities and towns.
But not
And
them.
exempted themselves.
I don't think we could ever get it changed, but to me, it's
know,
really, really bad government.
Yeah, the whole thing is rotten to the core, and that's why people don't like the Democratic Party, don't like the Republican Party, they won't change. And that was clear on both sides from this last election, that they are fed up with the way things are working.
And in all the years I was
don't know if
involved in town government here, I never saw anybody violate that. I think that people were really careful.
Yes, yeah, well, you know, every once in a while, if you're at a cocktail party, I suppose somebody's got to.
That might have been inadvertent,
yes.
but not a
Yeah.
plan,
No,
nothing
but
planned, I can imagine.
No, nothing intentional or mean-spirited. I
And this
don't
is
think,
intentional, and it bothers the devil out of me.
Yeah, yeah. But, you know, again, it's sort of like the same thing I was saying about the MBTA.
Yeah.
Unless there's an uproar about it, nothing's going to be done, and it's going to continue to get worse until we go bankrupt or go into a depression or something, you know, horrible. I understand the federal budget deficit is going up $3 billion a day. A day. And, you know, if you think of how much $1 billion is, $1,000 million. So you're talking about $3,000 million every day is being added to the money we owe as taxpayers. And in the last election, did you hear any candidate talk about how the bills were going to be paid?
No.
All they talked about is, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to give you that, we're going to cut your taxes, we're going to give you free college tuition, we're going to give you free health care, we're going to eliminate the estate tax. You know, it's just crazy. And everybody says, oh yeah, well, you know, by the time they do it, I'll be out of state. And they keep coming up with dumber and dumber ideas. I know there's talk about putting this ballot question on the millionaire's tax that they think is going to save us. That's got to be one of the dumbest ideas, in my opinion. They tried it in Connecticut, and all the millionaires moved out of state. You know, they had the highest 100 taxpayers in Connecticut. I read this article recently. 2 years later, of those 100, there were only 45 left in the state of Connecticut. They've managed to
I would probably do it too if I were one of them.
else.
Yeah.
You'd be crazy not to. I understand even without that, there's some of our biggest, wealthiest people are now residents of New Hampshire. Some of the mutual fund people. They have a summer house up in New Hampshire, why not become a resident there? A lot of people move to the Cape to avoid taxes once their kids are out of school.
Yeah.
So, and you know, you can do it, and it's perfectly legal, perfectly acceptable to do it.
Some of us are staying though.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it may not be fair. I've heard of one county in Alabama where if you are over 65, you don't have to pay a school tax.
I have a friend that thinks that.
Well, of course, Alabama has got one of the worst school systems in the country, so, you know, I guess what you say, you get what you pay for, but I'm sure there are lots of people that move there just so they can avoid paying taxes, and I don't know. Such is life.
Yes.
So what else is going on in town? The swim pond opened this weekend, I believe.
That's a great spot.
So, yes, yeah, they've done a nice job fixing that up. I went by there the other day and they've got a nice fence up there. I've heard they're going to be doing some work on the Lowell Mason House this year.
I've heard that
speaking
too.
of that, so that would be good to get that, at least the exterior in good shape. It's been a long process, but people forget it was a long process to get the Dwight Derby House in shape too. So it's Rome wasn't built in a day.
So they say.
And we are, a couple other things got to be done this summer with our new facilities manager, Jerry McCarty. He's going to replace the roof of the gazebo.
Oh, okay.
Which that's going to be probably about 30 years old. And he's also got bids out to repair the town hall roof, which is badly in need.
I've heard that, yes.
Yeah. And we replaced the back door in the town hall. Lots being done around town. The little things, you know. And I think it's good that we're concentrating on the little things after all the big building projects we've had the last few years. It's nice to start paying attention to the maintenance. You know, when you think about it, next year at this time, the library and the town hall will have been renovated 20 years ago.
Wow.
We paid off the original bonds on the town hall and library last year. And we moved in, the library moved in, I believe, around May or June of 1998.
Mm-hmm.
The school department moved into town hall last week of July of 98, and the rest of town hall we moved in August of 98, so it's coming up on 20 years. So, fortunately, the buildings have been kept in pretty good shape.
Good.
So, but now you're running into, you know, life cycle stuff. Your boiler needs to be replaced, or your doors. We just replaced our door at the rear town hall because it was rotting out from the water splashing up on it. So, and speaking of town hall, the pocket park turned out to be really very nice.
It did.
You know, the nicest part about it is you hardly ever go by there that isn't someone sitting in there.
That's really
or
nice.
playing in it. Yeah, yeah. In all different age groups, you'll see, you know, older women sitting there. You'll see mothers playing board games with their kids. You'll see people knitting. You'll see.
My family bought a bench there in honor of my husband when he died.
Yeah, yes.
So I'm glad to see people using it.
It's a nice idea. Those are the nice things to do. And I always say I'd rather have a granite curbstone than a tombstone. At least you're getting something useful out of it.
Okay.
But it is really done well. And the concerts, I believe it's, is it not this week, but next
the following week, I think.
The concerts at the gazebo start up. And that means the Zulu Gallery will be open Thursday nights, so that's another
It's a great
fun
place,
spot
so.
to go to, yeah. It's amazing how in the last couple of years, all these restaurants have put in outdoor seating. And at first, people didn't use it because I think a couple of summers weren't that great, but you know, last summer and several nights this summer have been nice enough that you go by and there's a lot of people eating outdoors.
I think it's great.
It's kind of fun, yeah. The downtown certainly has had a renaissance. It's really gotten so much nicer. In fact, when you talk to people from other towns, they are very happy with what's going on in Medfield.
Business owners have done a good job there too.
They have.
They really have.
Yes,
We're lucky to have
keeping
them.
their properties up, yeah.
Very lucky.
And we're lucky that people have been willing to reinvest in some of the older buildings and maintain them so that the downtown manages to keep its flavor. You know, it's very nice. Casabella, they have the windows that open.
Yep.
They can slide open, and it's so nice to walk by there and see the windows open and people sitting inside.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, Council on Aging, they're having their Wednesday night dinners. They have them every other couple of weeks.
Yep.
So they oversubscribe, don't they? They have to put limits on it, or they limit it to 100 now?
They limit it, and it's Medfield people only unless there's a vacancy.
Vacancy, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
They do a good job though.
They
And
do.
it's a nice, I usually go to them, as a matter of fact,
Yeah.
especially for those of us that live alone.
Yeah.
It's a really nice thing to have.
It is, yeah, and it's nice they have it early enough that you can go and still get home before it gets dark. So, I haven't been by, but I assume the King Street Club pool will be hopping this time of year.
I would imagine.
So, especially if it's supposed to be 90 by Friday, I imagine that will be well utilized. We have, in case anybody wondered, the drought has been officially declared over. So,
Okay. I think it probably occurred to most of us.
yes, well, the state has to declare. They have some board that meets and declares that it's over. And they had a hard time not declaring it.
I would think so.
So, we still ask people to be cautious in their water use. And the Garden Club is interested, by the way. They met with the Water and Sewer Board, and they're interested in trying to educate people on, what type of plants to put in to minimize water use, and how often you need to water your lawn. I think a lot of people think they need to water it 3 or 4 times a
Probably,
week, when really once a week, if you give it a thorough watering, is enough. And they can save an awful lot on their water bill if they do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, we are continuing to try to figure out what to do with removing the manganese and iron from the treatment plant. One of the things they're looking at right now, would it be cheaper, instead of building a plant to remove the iron and manganese from wells 3 and 4, which are the ones down behind the Wheelout School, to try to build a new well at another location in town.
Wow.
And the most promising site, and they have to do lots of tests to see how they work out or not, is the old hospital well field.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, so.
And the water's clearer than it used to be, much cleaner.
Yes, yeah. And the hospital well field, that was originally what they call shallow point wells. They had, I know, 60 or 80 well points.
I remember that, yeah.
That they were probably down only 15, 20 feet. Whereas the newer wells today, you go down maybe 80 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So you're drawing from much deeper and likely to be much cleaner site. So we're hoping that, and some tests they did a few years ago, there was a good supply of water there. So we're hoping that would work out and give us more time to figure out what to do with the iron and manganese. We don't want to give up those wells, because one of them is as one of the Water and Sewer Board members described, as a real gusher. They really tested very positive for the volume of water you can get out of it. The removal of iron and manganese is very expensive. And,
Sure it is, yeah.
that could push up the water rates quite a bit. Sewer we're doing fine on. Sewer treatment plant's in great shape. The only problem we're having with the sewer treatment plant is hiring a chief operator since Bob McDonald left.
Yeah.
We thought we had a couple of people we offered the job to, and then they turned it down. But it's getting to the point you can tell things are going pretty well when you have trouble recruiting people.
Yeah, that's true too.
We've seen in other areas where they're having trouble getting people to hire. And the private sector is having that problem also. So I guess we should consider ourselves lucky that we are in such a good situation economically. It's hard to figure out why the state is having such financial problems on the revenue side, though. But I think part of it is the loss of sales tax revenue from everybody purchasing online. A lot of them don't pay. A lot of the companies don't collect sales tax.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of jobs there too.
And they say 20% of the malls are going to be closing within the next year or two.
It doesn't surprise me.
So many people, the younger people, are shopping online. So I think the whole tax structure needs to be looked at. The way we finance education is very unfair. It hits communities like Medfield that have a lot of school kids. Yeah. Don't have a big commercial tax base.
And we don't.
It kills us. In other communities like Boston and Cambridge that cry poor mouth are sitting on tons of money because all these developments that are going in there. I can't imagine what they get from one of these medical buildings or apartment complexes in Boston and Cambridge that go up.
But you don't see anything huge coming up in the town in the foreseeable future?
Anything?
Good or bad, but anything huge, anything big?
Not until the state hospital is resolved. I think, there's not a lot of land. When you think about it, the town owns
I know,
so much
town
land
bought a
and
lot,
the
I know.
trustees, and so And, you know, the other problem you run into, frankly, is everybody wants stuff in town, but not in their backyard.
Of course.
So even in the downtown area, people don't want it. But so as a consequence, the taxes are very high to support the schools
Yeah.
and the other town services people want. People, for the most part, seem to understand that. They're not happy about it, but they.
This is it. This is life.
Yes, yeah. So I've noticed the difference in traffic these days on 109.
Oh, absolutely.
It's amazing when school gets out how much easier it is. I live on Nebo Street, so when I come out of Nebo Street in the morning, it's so much easier to get out
bet you.
on 109. I don't have to wait 2 or 3 minutes
So
to
you
get
have
out.
2 months of that.
Yeah, and then you get used to it, and all of a sudden, bang, Labor Day comes and
And
they're all
they go
back.
back.
So I think probably that's most of what's going on. I know as soon as they turn off the cameras, I'll remember something else I should have talked about. And
I think you pretty well covered everything.
yeah.
If not, next time we'll get a little list of a checklist.
The check mark, yes. My senior list, senior moment list.
Well, you're getting there. You're not as old as I am, but you're getting there.
Oh, percentage-wise, I'm gaining on you.
Yes, you are. Okay, well, people at home, thank you so much for watching Medfield TV and Happenings in Medfield. And I certainly thank Mike Sullivan for coming back every month and giving us a rundown on what's happening in the town in general and, of course, Town Hall in particular. So thank you for watching Medfield TV and look forward to seeing you watch the next show.
You're watching Medfield TV, community show.